Howdy, y'all. It's Reese, aka Bearman Prime, on this June 3rd. Welcome back to my Read the Bible in a Year series. Thank you again for joining me. God bless you all. Card in the top right hand corner for the rest of the playlist. And please hit the like button, the subscribe button, that notification bell. Really do appreciate it. Alright, so we finished up our coverage of the book of Daniel yesterday, and now we're going to move on to what's going to be the last book in the Old Testament we look at. That is the book of Jonah. So Jonah is probably another story and figure that we are probably familiar with, even those who are not familiar with the Bible in general. So this is the section of the Bible that usually is attributed to what people call the minor prophets. So there are several books toward the end of the Old Testament. They're very short, written by several people, and they all usually have to do with the same thing about calling the nation of Israel and calling other people to repentance and to come back to God and to obedience and worship of Him. And Jonah's one example of this. So Jonah's a prophet at this time, and he's a fairly important guy. He's someone that people would turn to a lot for advice and questions about God. What does God think we should do, etc., etc. But Jonah's not perfect, as we're going to see. So let's dive in today. Let's go to Jonah chapter 1 today, beginning in verse 1. The Lord spoke to Jonah, son of Amittai. Nineveh is a big city. I have heard about the many evil things the people are doing there. So go there and tell them to stop doing such evil things. But Jonah tried to run away from the Lord. He went to Joppa and found a boat that was going to the faraway city of Tarshish. Jonah paid money for the trip and went on the boat. He wanted to travel with the people on this boat to Tarshish and run away from the Lord. Verse 4. But the Lord brought a great storm on the sea. The wind made the sea very rough. The storm was very strong, and the boat was ready to break apart. The men wanted to make the boat lighter to stop it from sinking, so they began throwing the cargo into the sea. The sailors were very afraid. Each man began praying to his God. Jonah had gone down into the boat to lie down, and he went to sleep. The captain of the boat saw Jonah and said, "Wake up! Why are you sleeping? Pray to your God. Maybe your God will hear your prayer and save us." Verse 7. Then the men said to each other, "We should throw lots to find out why this is happening to us." So the men threw lots. The lots showed that the trouble came to them because of Jonah. Then the men said to Jonah, "It is your fault that this terrible thing is happening to us. Tell us, what have you done? What is your job? Where do you come from? What is your country? Who are your people?" Jonah said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the land and the sea." Jonah told the men he was running away from the Lord. The men became very afraid when they learned this. They asked Jonah, "What terrible thing did you do against your God?" The wind and the waves of the sea were becoming stronger and stronger. So the men said to Jonah, "What should we do to save ourselves? What should we do to make you calm? What should we do to you to make the sea calm?" Jonah said to the men, "I know I did wrong. That is why the storm came on the sea. So throw me into the sea, and the sea will become calm." Instead, the men tried to row the ship back to the shore, but they couldn't do it. The wind and the waves of the sea were too strong, and they were becoming stronger and stronger. Verse 14. So the men cried to the Lord, "Lord, please don't say we are guilty of killing an innocent man. Please don't make us die for killing him. We know you are the Lord, and you will do whatever you want." So the men threw Jonah into the sea. The storm stopped, and the sea became calm. When the men saw this, they began to fear and respect the Lord. They offered a sacrifice and made special promises to the Lord. When Jonah fell into the sea, the Lord chose a very big fish to swallow Jonah. He was in the stomach of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 2, verse 1. While Jonah was in the stomach of the fish, he prayed to the Lord his God. He said, "I was in very bad trouble. I called to the Lord for help, and he answered me. I was deep in the grave. I cried to you, and you heard my voice. You threw me to the sea. Your powerful waves splashed over me. I went down into the deep sea. The water was all around me. Then I thought, Now I must go where you cannot see me. But I continued looking to your holy temple for help. The seawater closed over me. The water covered my mouth, and I could not breathe. I went down, down into the deep sea. Seaweed wrapped around my head. I was at the bottom of the sea, the place where the mountains begin. I thought I was locked in this prison forever. But the Lord my God took me out of my grave. God, you gave me life again. My soul gave up all hope, but then I remembered the Lord. I prayed to you, and you heard my prayers in your holy temple. Some people worship useless idols, but those statues never help them. I will give sacrifices to you, and I will praise and thank you. I will make special promises to you, and I will do what I promise. Salvation only comes from the Lord. Then the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah out of its stomach onto the dry land. Well, there you have it. So there's the story that we're probably most familiar with, is Jonah and the whale, or a giant fish, either way. So here we see Jonah. He's a respected prophet, a respected man among his people, and God tells him to go to this place, Nineveh, which is, by all accounts, just a wicked, vile city. People there are cruel to each other, committing all sorts of sinful acts. But Jonah says, no, I am not going to go. I am not going to obey the Lord. Why, you ask? Well, in this situation, there's no context here, but as we dig further down, Jonah does not like the Ninevites. I don't want to say they're necessarily enemies of the nation of Israel, but Jonah has a real problem with them personally, and he just refuses to help them. He does not want them to be saved. He would rather see them destroyed. And so, rather than obey God as he should, he tries to physically run away and hide from God. Now, as we could probably guess, and as we know, we can see here, that is futile. God sees everything we do. He sees us no matter where we go. And so, he sends the storm to stop and disrupt Jonah, and he's thrown into the sea, and he spends 3 days in the belly of a giant fish and or whale. And so you can imagine that is probably very uncomfortable. Imagine being in a stomach, a literal stomach. He's probably being, for lack of a better term, he's being digested. So all the stomach acids and stuff that's inside there is eating away at his skin. He's in pain. He's hungry. He's probably thirsty. He's tired. He spends 3 days just praying to God, praying and praying and praying. And in that suffering, in the midst of all that, the Lord hears him, and the fish belches him out back onto the land. So we'll see how Jonah responds to all that tomorrow. Thank you again for joining me. I sure do appreciate it. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.